I don't know if you feel it through the camera lens. This is just like so milky. It's unique, sweet flavor to it that I really like. Hey guys, welcome to Jung's Table, and today we're diving into something comforting and warm soup called Seolleongtang. Seolleongtang is made out of ox bone and it's been loved for centuries in Korea. It looks simple, almost plain, but this humble bowl carries stories of loyalty, colonization, war, and resilience. Unlike many other Korean dishes, Seolleongtang doesn't have like that flashy flavor to it, but the broth itself is very gentle and has that savory richness from the simmering the bone oxes for hours. I believe some restaurants simmer it for more than 24 hours. So where did this Seolleongtang come from? There are two main stories which are most believable. The first story is that it comes from Seonnongjae, and it's a loyal ritual to pray for a good harvest of the year. And Seonnongjae started in the Joseon dynasty, and after the ritual, king would share a bowl of oxbone soup to share with the people. And because of that, this soup was first called Seonnongtang, naming after the Seonnongjae. Jae means the ceremony, and then the pronunciation over time evolved as Seolleongtang. So this version of the story, the soup is tied with the king and the land, unifying the king with the people, showing harmony and unity. And the second version of the story becomes more global. It suggests that Seolleongtang actually came from the word shulu in Mongolian, and which means just a meat broth soup. And it's believed that during the Goryeo dynasty, when Korea was in contact with the Mongol Empire, their food and culture may have influenced ours. In either version of the story, beef during the Goryeo and Joseon dynasty was rare, expensive, and regulated. So the majority of the beef would be served to the loyal class families, so the people would have to find out a way to eat the remaining cartilages, cheaper cuts, and then the bones. So they would simmer it for hours and would make this Seolleongtang. But during the Japanese occupation in the 20th century, things changed a little bit. Japan would encourage beef production in Korea, and that's when beef became more affordable and accessible. And that's when Seolleongtang began popping up as a popular restaurant dish. And we can see that people really love this soup Seolleongtang as it appears in Korean literature as well. In the 1924 short story called Lucky Day, the rickshaw worker works all day just to buy a bowl of Seolleongtang for his sick wife. In the story, unfortunately, when he returns home, he finds his wife dead, so she couldn't eat it. But that shows how much people love Seolleongtang, as even a sick wife would crave for it before her death. And in that story, this Seolleongtang is more than just a food, as it symbolizes love and hope. We would eat Seolleongtang with rice, but inside you can see a sommyeon, which is just flour-based noodles like this. And this only started after the 1960s, I believe, after the Honbunshik encouraging campaign. I've dealt with the Honbunshik campaign in more detail in the previous episode about tteokbokki. It's basically a campaign where when rice was scarce in Korea, the government would promote usage of flour instead of rice to help people feed themselves. And that's why in many restaurants they would add the noodles. And that policy became almost a tradition, and today whenever you go to a Seolleongtang restaurant, you will almost always find that sommyeon. Now Seolleongtang, like many other Korean cuisine, has been there for centuries, but Seolleongtang is the first menu that's sold in the oldest registered restaurant in Seoul. And that restaurant is called Imun Seolleongtang, and that's the oldest restaurant in entire Korea. The restaurant was founded in 1904, so it was even before the colonization, the Korean War, and it still thrives until today. And with this long history, there are also a lot of popular customers, and one of the most famous is the first Korean Olympic medalist in 1936 Berlin Games, and his name is Hon Ki-jung. Unfortunately, when he was in the Olympics, he couldn't come out as a Korean medalist because it was during the time of the Japanese colonization. But after the interview, he shouted that he is a Korean, and in the other interviews within Korea, he named this Seolleongtang place as his favorite dish. But my favorite Seolleongtang place is actually in the States, LA, and it's called Seonnongtan. And when I first found out Seonnongtan, I found it kind of funny because I thought it might be affiliated with the origination of Seolleongtang, which I mentioned before, Seonnongjae. So in Korea, Seolleongtang is not just a simple dish. It's a dish that actually traverses all throughout the Korean history, from the Goryeo or Joseon dynasty to modern Korean history. And I believe that's why to many Koreans it has that feeling of warm and comforting and of course the nourishing feeling. And this time I'm gonna try the sommyeon. Now usually because there is no extra seasoning to the broth, you can add salt and pepper to your own flavor. Or what I like to do is usually pair with kimchi. And here we have the normal kimchi made out of cabbage, but also this 깍두기 made out of radish. It has that more refreshing and deep savory flavor to it than just normal napa cabbage kimchis. This time with the rice, I will first soak it in the broth, then top it up with some meat and some spring onions. And this 깍두기 compared to the regular napa cabbage kimchi, when it's fermented just right, it has that its unique sweet flavor to it that I really like. When you see it in person, I don't know if you feel it through the camera lens, but like this is just like so milky, a little more thick, and the color is just so white. You can tell the longer you simmer the bones, the milkier it gets. And some Koreans like to put the kimchi soup inside it to get the extra seasoning. And then that's what I usually like to do sometimes without the salt and pepper at all. Because if you go to a really good restaurant, their kimchi is just a killer, so you just don't want to miss that extra kimchi flavor to your soup. Now when you do mix it, it just adds a whole new layer of flavor than just adding the salt and pepper. I don't know how to put it in words, but it has the deep savor from the broth and that refreshing from the kimchi soup. So in together, it's like somewhere in the middle, but it creates a whole new feel. And I can't imagine Seolleongtang without this sommyeon, because personally I really love noodles, and it's just fun to eat both rice and noodle in the same plate. And I guess to help you imagine how it might taste like, you could imagine more broth flavored pho. So if you just add the noodles, I would call it like a Korean pho. So Seolleongtang is one of the very few regional dishes for Seoul. So when you're visiting Korea and traveling Seoul and want authentic Seoul dish, you try Seolleongtang. And if you like this story about Seolleongtang and want to know more about other local dish in Korea that tells you stories, please like and subscribe my video and wait till the next episode. Thank you!